Okay, so in the last video, I showed you guys how to make a perfect wheel. And I used a lot of words that probably confused you, but just remember that to make a perfect wheel, make sure there's an even distance, right, from the hinge thingamabob. Let's just define everything as thingamabobs. Thingamabob A, even distance from area B thing. You know what, I give up. You guys, I hope you understood. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how to make an imperfect wheel serve a purpose. And it's actually fairly interesting. So we will take one of our imperfect wheels, right, like this one, and we'll take it over here and set it down. And then I can add a cylinder to it. So if you guys don't know how to add a block, just hit J and then click the ground, and there you go. You got a block. But if you don't know how to add a cylinder, when you do click J, there's an option over here on the left to select cylinder. And now I'm going to use the both tool here in my build to set the cylinder's size. And if your resizing tool doesn't let you make it very tiny, go over here to the left and set increment to 0.0001. Okay. Now what you should have is something like this. I'm going to put it up a little higher. Now as you can see, once again, there's more distance on this side of this wheel than there is on this side of this wheel. And it is still rotating around its center point, right? So this line here, which I totally should recolor, we'll make it like an annoying green, there we go, is the center of this wheel. And no matter what, this wheel is going to spin around that center point. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same. And if we unanchor these, first, of course, we have to weld them. And now this is what you get. It appears as if there's a hobble, but in reality, just the shape of the thing you have spinning around the circle is different. And how does this make an amazing machine? Well, you can use an imperfect wheel like this to tell another wheel what to do. But first, we have to build a gear contraption, right? So let's do that. And we will still use hinges. So the first step to building a gear contraption like this is to add a cylinder, right? Everything with cylinders. Then shrink it down, right, like this. Then use the both thing over here on your left side and expand it like this. And now we have a pretty nice foundation. But now we want to select or click on the circle we just made and click Shift-C and make a second copy. And shrink it way down and use normal to just make it a little bit taller. And then make another copy of this new circle we made here. Use the both settings on your resizing tool to shrink it down. Use normal again and stand it up like this. What we're doing is we're making a base for a hinge and an area for our character to rotate. Because really, one of the only ways to create power in Roblox is rotation or with a vehicle seat. So, let's go ahead and color everything. So I'm going to color code this a less bothersome color here. There we go. Oh, wow. Give me 1 second. Sorry, colors are always very important when making a machine. And this will be orange, and this, once again, black, apparently, not black, green. There we go. So we have black, orange, green, and then we will add our hinge to the green piece. And how we'll add our hinge is we'll go over here to this cube tool, and we'll click on top of this, and you want to sort of face up your camera and click again, and it says left. It might not be left on your thing, but make sure you always click twice, because the cube tool always starts out with all sides, and you don't want things to be on all sides of your thingy. So now I have my hinge on top of there. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this green piece by clicking on it and clicking Shift-C, moving this thing up, And once it's moved up, we want to go back to our cube tool and see how it says left side hinge. That's saying that this hinge is on the left side of that block. We want to set that to smooth here. So then this block is a perfectly smooth block. We'll paint it something like maybe pink and then resize it using both to form this sort of a structure. And then it's always important to test your machine before you use it, so that way it doesn't like explode while you're using it. So I made a copy of this, and I'm going to unanchor it and make sure nothing falls apart, which it didn't. And now we're going to make a copy of this pink thing, like this, and make it like a brown. And then we're going to resize it, like this. So, I'm going to re-explain how to resize and rotate and everything, just in case you guys do not know. The C tool here, this little rotating thing, is how you rotate. The B tool is how you adjust hinges and things. And the N tool is the material tool. And the X tool is the resize tool. And the Z tool is the move tool. Okay, now that that's over with, if you click Shift C, it will copy this little brown thing we have made. And then we will have both turned on and scale down our copy real fast. We will go to the V tool over here, this paint bucket, and paint it like a red. And then go up to our X tool or our weird bubbly cross tool next to the Z tool or the arrows tool and stretch it out like this. And it's very important that your Roblox character can push this thing, because if it can't, it will just like roll over and jump over it. Now you can see we have sort of the basics of this rotation contraption coming into being. Now, we have to copy this pink block now. And we're going to paint the copy of the pink block a purple. And then we're going to shrink it down, still using the both tool here. And then we're going to lift it up using the Z tool or the arrows tool, up like this. And then on top of this thing, we're going to put a gear. And this gear will power our machine, because the power comes from the rotation of this machine. And basically, rotation just means to spin that thingy. I don't know why there's so many big words for small words. Now, we click on this thingamajig, and we click Shift-C. And then, we'll go over to our C tool over here, our rotate tool, and spin it, or spin our copy, lift this thing, and we'll paint it another color. That way, it's easy for us to see. We'll paint it like a nice blue. And once again, both is still left on mine, so hopefully it's still left on yours. Make it sort of a medium-sized wheel. Once again, use both. Shrink the thing down a little bit, like this. Maybe make it a wee bit bigger, because bigger sticks like this have an easier time of bumping into each other, because if you make it like really tiny like this, if my camera even picks it up, then you can have trouble making them bump into each other and push each other around, because that's what you want to happen. You want the wheels to push each other. But I'll show you here in a second. So now we have just one of those up there. But I'm going to copy this thing down here, this sort of purple, blue, brown, dark black colorish thing, one more time. So I copied it one more time. I'm slipping it up more towards into the blue thing, and I'm going to resize it using normal, not both. So go over to the left side of your screen to normal, set it normal, scale it up like this. And the reason I do this is just so I can see my gears, make them look a little bit nicer instead of just being long sticks. And then you want to set your size tool back to both and make like a big wheel like this. So then you have this sort of a shape. And then you just click on this, click on the blue piece, and copy it and rotate it like this. Copy and rotate, copy and rotate. If you don't know where the rotate tool is, it's right here. You just click on it, and this sort of weird floating hologram thing will pop up. And now we have a wheel like this. Ooh, did I go too far now? And I'll show you how this machine works here. And then we'll build the other part of the machine, which then will push something like that. So you click and you hold shift and then you pull your mouse across the screen like this, and then you let go and it will grab everything, and then you click shift C, which lets you copy, and then you just drag your copy like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint the whole bottom like this, brown or like gold. And we're going to paint everything that has to rotate like a green. That way it's a two-part system. We know what's going on, right? Because in the bottom is where the hinge is, and top is what's hinging or spinning. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all my green like this and weld it. And how I weld is I go over to this little chain and I go over to the other side of the screen and hit weld last. And now I'm going to go to my anchor here, go to the left side and hit unanchor. And now watch, machine spins around. And as the bottom of the machine spins, the top of the machine spins, which spins the wheel, which will power whatever you want to power. And I'll show you how to power stuff here. And now, all we have to do is take pieces from this to make pieces to get power. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now by moving it first and then copying it. And you guys know how to copy now, hopefully. And I'm going to just delete away some pieces of it like this. But I'm not going to delete away the main area, because it's very important that gears are very similar to each other so they can push each other. It's very hard to make, say, a gear a different shape and very tiny and be powered by a bigger wheel. I'll have to make a video on it for you guys. It's just very painful. And now I will set this over here, make a copy of it, and then rotate it like this. And then set it in here like this. And this should show you guys how the rotation of this machine should power this, suggesting that everything is set up right. Because if this wheel is too different than that one, which it shouldn't be because they're the same exact wheel, then it won't work. And if the distance between these two sticks is too tight, then they won't even spin each other. So this might not work the first time, because building one of these things is actually fairly complicated. Anchor. And then I'm going to unanchor this part, and I'll color that so you guys see what I welded and unanchored. So I welded all this purple stuff here together and then unanchored it. And now watch, as I spin this, that spins that. See how I'm spinning? How the green thing's spinning as I push it and it's pushing the purple thing? So now, all I have to do is connect something to that thing to make it work. And how we're going to sort of apply an imperfect wheel is I'm going to weld an imperfect wheel, or an imperfect shape, to this sort of purple thing. So I'm going to extend it by making a copy out here and attach an imperfect wheel, and it will make sort of like a swing. But it's way easier. I'll show you an even easier way to make a swing after this. And there we go. So now we have the wheel there. Just sort of stretch it out. It might not be able to lift it because there's all sorts of physics involved in that. Now we add our seat. You want to add a seat, you go to the plus tool here, and you go to parts. It should be parts type, or maybe parts. I don't know why it says part type, but then you select seat from in this list, which should be here, yes. And then just hook a seat to it, and it will follow this path, because the wheel isn't perfectly in the center of this stick formation thing we got going on here. It's going to rotate in a really weird pattern. It all still follows a circle shape, even though, which is what people never talk about. But this all gets welded together now. So see the stuff I'm selecting? All that gets welded and then unanchored. And nothing should break or malfunction. And now watch. See how it all follows? Like that. And now, if you have a friend, your friend can spin this part, and you can get on that part. And it still is following a circle pattern. It just appears as if it's not. But it's a great way to make like a simple swing ride thing. But it's also, I used it in other machines, but the other machines would take like 3 or 4 hours to make. So I have to show you an example another time on that. And now I'm going to show you guys how to make this same thing, but without this big circle that would make it easier. So I have to anchor a few pieces of this to show you. Now that I've anchored it, I can delete anything that I consider bad and add in what really would make it work easier and just better. And now that I've added these pieces, and you guys can see the pieces, you know, I don't need to tell you every stage. You guys can just copy what I do and you'll understand. Now I take this stuff, I weld it like this, and I unanchor. And now I can push it like that without the wheel. And this is one of the main ways you see people make a swing that's like gear based like this. And that's pretty much all. I might make more videos on the gear machine thing because there's a lot of fun, cool stuff you can do with that. And yeah, I guess bye.